Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teenaccounts.
Adobe Acrobat, your new foundation. Use PDF spaces to generate a presentation. Grab your docs, your permits, your moves. AI levels up your pitch, gets it in a groove. Choose a template with your timeless cool. Come on now, let's flex those tools. Draft, design, deliver, make it sing. AI builds the deck so you can build that thing. Do that, do that, do that with Acrobat.
Learn more at adobe.com/do-that-with-acrobat.
Like, did you ever meet seemingly straight guys who are curious about being with a guy?
All the time, but then, so they're so horned up, they need to get blown usually, and muck around, do something, touch another guy. But the moment it's done, you're out, and you see the wall come up, and they're no longer, once they've blown their load, they just go back to, and then the shame comes in, and sometimes that's where the homophobia comes through, because they're so ashamed that it swings the other way, and then they want to bash a gay, because they would really want to bash the gay out of themselves.
This is Dr. Andrew Rimby. Thanks for joining us here in the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. If you don't know, you can get all of our episodes ad-free on Patreon, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. All of Mary's true crime episodes ad-free, video episodes ad-free from the ITBR interviews. Also, follow us on Instagram, please, Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I like to put a lot of exciting arts and culture clips from the podcast, TV shows, films that we've discussed. TikTok is Dr.Andrew Rimby. Long story, the Ivory Tower Boiler Room one got taken off by TikTok because it was too salacious and scandalous, in my opinion. But I might be just having an Oscar Wilde complex there, thinking, that I was causing such a sensation on TikTok. So please rate us on Apple. It really, really helps. Review us. If you're on Spotify, you can rate us there too. YouTube, please follow our YouTube channel. Please like the video, share it with your friends, your community. The only way that I can keep giving you all free, exciting podcast episodes is because of the reach of the podcast. So rating us, reviewing us, it really, really does help. Also, shout out to Sean, our intern, who, if you see the cover art, you see the edits of the podcast, that's all Sean. So amazing work by Sean. So I hope you all enjoy this episode. But yeah, sorry, as you were saying about the Panzer plotter, yeah.
So eventually what happened was, just before COVID, I'd sat down. First of all, I'd read a book, How to Write a Novel for Dummies. How embarrassing. But it was great because it told me what I learned from the most was structuring a book. So I found out I was probably a plotter.
Yep.
So I sat down I filled a tumbler full of ice, and I filled the glass with vodka, and I put it on Tame Impala, and I just drank, and I did the plot. So chapter 1, Dylan runs away. Okay. Chapter 2, Dylan's on the road. Chapter 3, well, he can't be on the road for 6 to 8 weeks. It's going to take him to go. So how would I have to do it? So, and that's how the plot sort of came out. And then by 4 hours, I had the whole novel structured.
Wow.
And the glass of vodka was empty.
But you also had been sitting on it for so long, you said, that it's like, it was all there. You just had to just dedicate yourself to finish. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was that process. And then a few people at work I'd sort of showed it to, as an idea, and they were like, got really into the idea and said, oh, that's going to sound like a great book. So then COVID struck, and then I thought, shit, this is my one chance probably with my ADHD to knock it out. So I knocked the whole novel out in 35 days.
That's
I did
amazing.
one chapter a day, and I didn't get out of bed. And I used the plot points to go, so I didn't get out of bed. I did the whole thing, 2-finger on my iPad, and I didn't get out of bed until the chapter was done. And then obviously I read the next morning. I'd read what I'd just written, and quickly. I didn't edit much at all because I knew if I started editing, I'd get obsessed. So And then I just wrote chapter 2 and chapter 3. And so, yeah, by the first 35 days of COVID, I'd had the novel written, but I edited it for 18 months. I went over and over again, obviously blew out plot points better and so on, but I had the whole structure done.
Yeah.
The whole novel done.
No, thanks for detailing that, Dallas, because I feel like some people think that Stephen King's on writing is like gospel, which, yeah, he can write every day. He has like a real rigid structure, but like not every writer has the same structure. And, you know, that's okay. Like, you
I
know,
think you definitely have to set yourself, you can't let yourself go. There's somewhere, if you've got,
mm-hmm.
you got to work with your personality. But I find if you're waiting for inspiration, like most authors, they're waiting, and it never comes. So it is 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. But I don't know. For me, I've got to knock the thing out real quick. But then you got all the time in the world to edit it, because once you've got the finished product, you can tamper with that all you like. But sometimes we can sabotage ourselves and then change ideas if it goes on too long, and then we just write ourselves to a corner and then it goes nowhere.
Yeah. Well, this is why academic writing, or just being in academia, there's like a real perfectionist attitude that can exist, that people want to keep reading and reading and reading sources. And that's where it's like, I'm always interested, like, are there any authors that you feel like you've inherited their voice, like Andrew Holleran, or like, is there any like authors you kind of consumed and then wanted to maybe aspire to like understand their work?
So he was a Robert Cormier. He was a New England writer.
Okay.
He was probably my biggest influence, because he didn't sugarcoat anything at all. He just put the characters into very real and extreme positions, and his voice, he's a beautiful writer. I mean, he's passed now, but he was intimate, I think, and that brings me back to that that New England area that's closer to Europe, and I think that's why I enjoyed his writing the most. Neville Shute, weirdly enough, a British writer, his storytelling is kind of simple, and I like that. I'm probably not a complex writer in terms of style in any way. I wouldn't claim that. But then I wrote a book that I like to read, and I love to just binge a book. Ideally, I mean, I do love books and challenges as well, of course. But my favorite style is just to binge a book in 3 days.
Yeah. Well, and not all writers are readers, and not all readers are writers. I mean, most writers are readers. Most readers aren't writers.
Exactly. Sometimes they want to be, so they think I've got it. And most people have a novel in them. And I'm always encouraging people. I meet people all the time for coffee who want to know more. I'm happy to give my time to.
That's so them. Nice. But
no one I know has actually finished a book because they like the idea of it. And I'll give them what I know, but what works for me may not work for, say, you. Especially with academia, I'll get that because I've got 5 other books on the go that are all nonfiction. And at some point you've got to just go end of that topic and write it and then move on. And you have to be really hard on yourself. Like a spanking.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's the hardest part for academics to make a mainstream kind of book, like a nonfiction book. Someone actually I'm interviewing right after, it'll be the next episode, is Rebecca Davis's Fierce Desires about sex and sexuality in America.
I love the cover.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's cool with the lips. But it reminds me of Lisa Rinna's lips. I don't know if you know who Lisa Rinna is. Oh,
no,
Beverly Hills Housewives. Wait,
so
doesn't Australia, they have housewives, right?
Yeah, not my TV channel, no way. I would hang myself by the balls and watch anything like that. Sorry.
I love the petty drama because I'll just do laundry or something. Or no, I'll work and just hear it on.
My sister is obsessed with that, so I get
really
the highlights reel, I guess, from her.
Yeah. Well, but I think what's interesting too that you're talking about with this style, the academics who can write for the public, it's eventually you realize, okay, I have to chart my own voice and I'm gonna make mistakes. If you get a real big statistic wrong or something, like Naomi Wolf did that when she did, I don't know if you know who Naomi Wolf is, but yeah, she wrote The Beauty Myth, and was known as the third wave feminist voice, I guess. But Then during the pandemic, she just made statements about like not wearing masks, and it got quickly.
They kept rowling.
Yeah, she got deplatformed quickly. But I had a lot of conversations with her one-on-one, and I really admire, like, she's a trained journalist, but like she does cultural journalism, so she kind of like does make um
strong statements, like bold
strong statements that people could think are fictional, like, or she just takes like one real strong statement and sensationalizes, which I think can be interesting in nonfiction, but you, the reader, have to know this isn't reality. Like, no, is this like a novel now, right? Which, like, did you know, okay, I'm always like, my experiences are going to make their way into a novel, not a memoir.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is a memoir, like a semi-autobiographical, my book, in
Yeah.
that I draw on all the experiences. I certainly draw on real characters and use them as a basis for creating those other characters. And I knew that time, I set it back in a time that I was intimately familiar with. In that way, it was semi-autobiographical, but story-wise, like I ran away from home when I was 21, which isn't really running away in the true sense. But I did want to run away when I was 15, and I had a whole plot. I was going to ride at night, sleep at day, and ride my way across Australia to Sydney, because I'd seen a documentary called Kids of the Cross that came out in '83, and it showed these homeless kids living in squats in King's Cross, and they were running around. And I didn't want to live their life, but I was fascinated by it. These kids at 15 had independent lives away from their parents and making their own decisions. And growing up as a Jehovah's Witness,
Yeah.
I knowing that I was gay, knowing that if I came out, everyone in my community and my family would all reject me, I started fantasizing about like leaving, and it couldn't make it happen though, because I was very close to my mum, even though she was the first one to throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
In the end, as I knew would happen, but I kind of delayed that inevitability. So I imagined what it'd be like for a 15-year-old to get on a bike and run away, and then I guess, and then it kind of followed my life at that period somewhat, from 1990 to 93, when I was 21 to 24.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, and this handsome man on the cover, well, young, I don't want to be like inappropriate, but, a young adult man. Yeah.
He ends up as nearly 19 years old by the end of the
Okay.
movie.
Okay. So he's of age. Okay, good. Because that's all I need. But I think that when you like knew you were gonna have a 15-year-old, like, which direction did you want to take? Like, did you know you were gonna reach a certain point of the age, or you weren't gonna stay stuck in like Call Me by Your Name?
No, I didn't. It's strange, because growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm not knocking I'm not knocking them as a religion, almost, because it actually kept me safe from a lot of things, and delayed, I guess. If I'd got into stuff earlier, it might have been affected more by party drugs, for example. But I don't. I think I was always something was going to happen. I was desperately wanting to make a career as a Jehovah's Witness. Like, they encouraged me to leave school at 15, even though I had really high grades. So I did, to go full-time preaching, but then I got depressed, and then I lost the one part-time job I had, because it was really only a Christmas job. And then I was at home, and then Dad, who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, he made me go out and get a job as a 16-year-old. And then I had money coming in, and then I had independence. But I was living this sort of parallel life, where one hand I wanted to be, go to maybe Australian headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses and work there, or become a missionary. On the other hand, I had this parallel life of a gay person, and I had no idea what that meant or how I would live. Both promised paradise in a way. Jehovah's Witnesses, a literal paradise on earth, coming out as the paradise of freedom, of true freedom, whatever that means. And that's, I guess, what the book explores. But at some point, by 21, I couldn't make them both work, and I was swinging like a really strong metronome one way to the other. I was having secret gay sex in sex clubs, and then going preaching the next morning against that type of thing, until I couldn't. Obviously, something had to give. So it meant me going to Sydney, and within a few weeks, I had cut association with Jehovah's Witnesses and moved house and become anonymous, and cut my family off, because I knew that they'd cut me off. So I couldn't handle them cutting me off, so I felt more powerful by cutting them off. And that for 2 years, it probably became like a missing person, and they had to find me through TV show and national newspapers.
Yeah. Wait, do you still have a relationship? Is that okay to ask with your
Oh no,
family or?
yeah, no, they not no, they don't. The witness. So out of the three sisters I have, one's no longer a witness. So it's my mum and two sisters. They wait for me to contact them. They won't
Mm.
contact me. So it's what relationship I want to make of it
Yeah.
is worked out at the moment. So, but for a while they did literally cut me off, and I don't know. It's been ebbing and flowing.
Yeah.
It's like a they talk about PTSD, like because but post traumatic is great because it means that the trauma has ended. Right, you post it and you can move on. Religious trauma syndrome disorder is different because it's ongoing. It's like a wound that never heals. Because every time you contemplate any kind of relationship with your parents who are still alive or your sisters, you know that they're not going to talk to you or want to talk to you or volunteer to talk to you. So you're just dealing with that constantly, constant rejection reminders, which is doable. In the end, you can like cope with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough though. I mean, and like I know a little about Jehovah's Witness, but I only know the things from like neighbors where there weren't a lot. But the one family, they're like, oh, they don't celebrate Halloween, they don't celebrate their birthdays.
Mother's Day,
Okay.
Father, with a pagan origin. They even though
Oh.
actually they do like the wedding band, which is pagan in origin. So they have their they pick and choose a bit.
Yeah. Well, how about being gay?
Oh yeah, no. In order of probably discussed in Jehovah's Witnesses, apostasy is number one. So that means somebody who's actually actively turning against religion and speaking against it. That's if you're apostate, you will be absolutely cut off, and nobody will want to talk to you, and you're anathema. You're shit. Second would be pedophiles, and third would be gays. But
Wow.
they would say otherwise. But that's the reality.
It sounds like the LDS church.
Yeah. Or even the what's the other crazy one that's Scientology?
Scientology?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just think it's interesting that John Travolta and Tom Cruise are Scientologists because, you know, I think they got some things that they're working on. Uh,
Well, Serena Williams, Michael Jackson, Prince, they were all Jehovah's Witnesses.
wow.
So
Yeah. Actually, there was like someone in my English program at college who was Jehovah's Witness, and like we hung out at like a cafe, and she's like, and you're not like ashamed to be gay? And I'm like, no. And she's like, oh.
are you ashamed to be a Jehovah's Witness? They
I know.
couldn't see
I
the
was like, I think maybe that's what I said to her. I'm like, I wouldn't ask you these questions. This is odd. Um,
But she asked that in good faith.
in
I
good
wouldn't like
faith. No, she was trying to
yeah.
like, she's like, I really want to care, but I really, want you to be straight. And I was like, well, that's not your decision.
Right?
I don't know. I had
Yeah.
a friend who kind of, um, we've worked, well, we didn't work through it, but we've like made peace, but by just like not really talking a lot to each other. But she became like evangelical, and it was rooted in trauma. Like she has unresolved trauma that I know about, and she thought she found her place. And I'm like, this is how, in my opinion, this is how they manipulate you. It's not about religion, it's about control.
Oh, it's mixed. I mean, the leaders have all inherited the religion, so they believe it, and they don't think it's about control. They really believe that they're Jehovah's Witnesses, that God is directing the organization. They're the only true faith, but they absolutely follow society doctrine. And if it pivots 180 degrees overnight, they just go with it. Even if it's 2
Wow.
minutes ago preaching against beards, for example, the next day beards are now good. And then my mum was going at one point, "Oh, see, brother so and so has this beautiful beard." And I remember having a little bit of unshaven growth when I was 18, going to meeting, "Shave that off now. You can't have beard." Yeah. So, and just and they wouldn't, you're in a cult. No, not a cult is, and then they go and tell you what a cult is. But I see the
Mm.
same with the MAGA people too. They follow the same thing. Whatever Trump says, they won't apply the same principles, say, to Biden that they apply to Trump.
Mm.
Or whatever. Or they won't apply, sorry, to Trump that they apply to Biden. Jehovah's
Yeah.
Witnesses don't apply the same things to themselves as they do to everyone else.
Uh, would you say there's a lot of MAGA in Jehovah's Witness? The spring season is here, which means there's a new issue of the Gay and Lesbian Review called Victorian Times, all about my favorite period of literature, the 19th century. And you'll see a rugged Walt Whitman on the cover and the dandy Oscar Wilde. Well, guess what? My first article is now published in the Gay and Lesbian Review called Once Upon a Time in Camden. It's the intro to my book, which looks into their queer literary relationship, but also Whitman and Wilde's homoerotic poetics, and specifically what Whitman does with male same-sex desire before the category of homosexuality even existed. Like, how did he even express this in his poetry? Well, you'll have to read my book to find out. Book coming soon. If you know of a publisher, let me know. I'm shopping around right now. But this Victorian issue is so special with the Gay and Lesbian Review. There's articles on Dr. Jekyll and Victor Frankenstein. I'm about to see The Bride, which I can't wait to see. And right, Guillermo del Toro's new Frankenstein is all the rage. There's an article on Monte Cristo's Women in Love, Tchaikovsky's Men. I love Tchaikovsky's ballet. I'm particularly an admirer of the Sleeping Beauty. One on Captain Cobb. There's film and TV shows reviewed like Heated Rivalry, Boots, Kiss of the Spider Woman, which, if you don't know, I had an episode with Jeremy Fox from the Gay and Lesbian Review, the managing editor, and Colin Carmen and Joseph Federico, and we talked all about Heated Rivalry. You have to listen to it. And Kiss of the Spider Woman, I keep recommending to everyone. It is an astounding film. Boots, I actually had the creator Greg Cope White on the podcast too. You'll have to listen to his interview. Also, if you haven't heard our episode on the kink issue of the magazine, it's really, really interesting. And the ethnography one. And yes, there will be an episode soon about the Victorian issue. So get your hands on the Gay and Lesbian Review. The digital subscription is really easy to get, glreview.org. The print subscription also, head on over to the website, click subscribe, use the promo code ITBR choice. You get a free issue of the magazine. Choose the Victorian issue, will you? So head to their Instagram, their TikTok. I love the Gay and Lesbian Review. I get so many book recommendations, TV show, film recommendations. One of the films that I can't wait to watch is in this issue. I want to say it's pronounced Pillion or Pillion. I think I made it French there, with Alexander Skarsgård. So enjoy your reading, everyone. And if you're reading the Gay and Lesbian Review, please reach out to me. I want to let them know, that you all listening to this podcast are reading their magazine. Now that the spring semester is here, I am so excited to let you all know about a publisher, an independent publisher that's celebrating 40 years of great books, called Broadview Press. I love Broadview Press. I have so many of their editions of classic literature like Wuthering Heights, which is coming out soon, and it's our book club choice. And they have so many academic books for instructors and for students and the general public. So I've had so many exciting guests on, from guests talking about The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, guests talking about vampire literature, horror literature. I'm looking at you, Jeffrey Andrew Weinstock, whose book actually just came out called Horror Theory. Look it up. And I cannot wait because I have two exciting guests coming on soon. And I've recorded their episode, so I know that it's going to be such an interesting conversation. The first is Rachel Tucholsky, who wrote a book called Writing on Fire, a fierce yet friendly guide to writing humanities essays in college. I've used excerpts of it for my Writing 2 course at Montclair. It has gone over so well. I just love what Rachel does, and we get into this in our episode about this metaphor about writing on fire, like how that's a great way to think about free-flowing, brainstorming, creative ideas, and getting into that flow state, which, as Rachel explains, happens not just in writing, but in many other avenues. And then the other guest that I have on is David Starkey, who wrote a book called Academic Writing Now, A Brief Guide for Busy Students. It is designed to cover the basics of a college writing course in a concise, student-friendly format. Each chapter concentrates on a crucial element of composing an academic essay and is capable of being read in a single sitting, which, for a generation, myself included, I think all of us now, just consumed by digital media or just this attention grabbing technology, reading in a single sitting is definitely a plus. So head to Broadview Press, use the promo code Ivory Tower, and you'll get 20% off every single book in their collection. There's also a really cool digital library collection they have. So if you're a librarian, take a look at that. Message me. If you're a librarian, I'd be happy to show you what that new collection looks like. And I hope you all enjoy your reading.
No, they're not political. Jehovah's Witnesses don't vote.
Oh, they're not political at all?
But the short answer is yes. I think they think at least he's anti-abortion, and it's much like the evangelicals. They don't really care what Trump, all the rest of Trump. He just takes this platform of anti-abortion, and then they go, okay, he's anti-abortion, and the left isn't. So therefore,
it's like some Catholic people I knew from my hometown. Like, there's a range of Catholicism where I feel like most Catholics, are kind of not practicing Catholics. And then there's some die hard, because I'm at a Catholic university and most of it's very liberal. But once in a while, there'll be someone who has so traditional values that it doesn't make sense in the area. Like, we're right outside Manhattan. So it's odd to even have that kind of stance anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, whatever. I don't care. If it's, it's not worth it to engage with someone who I feel is so anti-abortion. Like, you're not really going to change their opinion. So
no, 100%. I think that's what Trump's given us, is why bother with these people? Why bother? I just thought when he got voted in the second time, and obviously we're Australia, we have different politics, but that big stone in that small pond is going to ripple out and affect all of us. I just think, let the shit show go until the end of it, and then you watch you all run back to rat holes and pretend you never liked Trump really anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to think that America doesn't have that much influence, but it does.
Oh, it really does. Well, we're
have influence. Yeah.
A right-wing supporter called a woman called Pauline Hanson over here. She's now on the ascendancy, and she has a similar pattern of hatred against immigrants, and spoken out against trans and gay people, and a loathsome woman. And she's now got more popularity than she's ever had before, and she's been around since the early 90s.
Oh, that makes me sick.
I think that's a direct result of
But
Trump.
What's her popularity, Dallas?
Yeah, rising. I haven't looked at the latest polls because I don't watch news anymore. Since Trump got into power, I just can't watch I just watch news headlines these days. But it's growing. If she was to run an election as an independent party, she would probably end up in the opposition at the moment.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I still question if he even won and Kamala won, and who knows what was going on. Because I think we should investigate what Russia was doing, but yeah, well, I'm going to say that I was hacked, and I'm just kidding. I was revealing truth that, Trump. Well, then I just realized my podcast episode with a former prosecutor about the Epstein files just got released, and I'm like, they don't want to hear about the Epstein files.
They're on to you.
No.
I'm dying for a book ban in the US. I keep hoping they'll do it so I can get some exposure.
Wait, you're dying for a book ban?
Yeah, Americans are banning books all over the place in libraries. I'm like, ban my book. I want to be on the list of banned books.
So, all the pretty boys. I'm just kidding. No, everyone get your hands on all the pretty boys.
Well, you can, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't want that to happen to you. I don't know. I don't even think the book bans, in my opinion. I did see a really great PBS documentary about like the banned libraries and Moms for Liberty, but they're not there. There's so much pushback even in the South with these book bans that, like, in my opinion, they're just all blowing off steam, these white nationalists, and they're angry because they realize they're not in the majority. It's like, yeah, we don't have the majority of the country supporting the Confederacy. Like, the Civil War is done. I mean, but some of them still fly it. It's crazy. In New Jersey.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It scares me how many people.
Not a lot of people, but yeah.
It scares me how many people in the States would probably love to go back to that era, slavery and all.
That's scary.
And would be there in a heartbeat if they had the chance, I think.
Oh, sick. Well, yeah. You know, they should go to Epstein Island then. Let them all go there. Leave us alone. They can all pick each other off one by one like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
And we'll all be very happy. I mean, yeah, it was nice being in Europe because I feel like their culture, like, it seems like there's peace. I mean, knock on wood. I'm like, I hope Europe doesn't get involved in this war, but who knows?
There's always nationalism bubbling under there in various parts, like Germany, when they brought in all the Syrians to settle there. That created a stronger right wing.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much, I think always, Europe. I'm just reading Winston Churchill's last part of his whole thing about the Second World War. And yeah, I think always Europe feels like it's always on the cusp of something. But yeah, but they're very much left wing, and it's much more.
They also follow rules better. Like, Americans will be like, I'm not fucking listening to you. We're like, in Europe, they're like, no, we got to be in line. Like, I remember in London, like when you're at the theater, everyone's like in the queue, or what we would just call a line. And here, like, you're lucky if someone doesn't, like, if someone might bump into you, and it's like, okay, calm down. Like, people have their cell phones go off. I just think Americans aren't all self-aware. Like, that isn't, they like to be right. I don't know. I think there's an ego that happens sometimes.
I've seen from where I sit, far away in Australia, and see, Europe and the US from the same distance. I think Americans talk about freedom, the be all and end all, and they're right. But in my book, it's like Dylan has to explore what freedom actually means. His idea of freedom ends up, kind of got to, like, it's no such thing as true freedom. It's all very subjective. So, and it boils down to, my freedom shouldn't usurp your freedom, and that's where the balance is, and that's where freedom ends. But I think a lot of Americans have in their minds that if I get told I can't do something, you're taking away my freedom. But it's never the other side. It doesn't apply to anyone else. It just applies to them. So it boils down to kind of ultimately a fairly selfish culture, numerically, overall. Not obviously
individuality, but individuality that, like, becomes self-centered. Like, that to me is the run of capitalism. It's like, even though Europe is capitalist, well, no, is Europe?
Yeah, it is
social. Well, some have more socialism policies.
Yeah, but in the end, it's a good balance. Like, you can't have one thing or another. You can't have. Yeah, it's somewhere in the balance, and they're always trying to find the middle balance. But ultimately, yes, they have capitalism, but there are certain rules attached. And you can have freedom, but there's also a respect, because they've seen what happens if people don't follow the rules. So they realise that rules should be followed for order. And I think maybe America, as a younger culture, is still trying to work out exactly what that means and how they apply it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say the most toxic thing in America is the workplace culture. Like, you're on vacation, and not me particularly, but you're on vacation, and, like, say there's an emergency, and this actually just happened, and there's a blizzard here, and I'm in Madrid, so our flight gets canceled with my husband and I after my conference. And I'm like, oh, I'll do the work remotely. Like, and someone actually gave me pushback, and he's like, no, you have to be here in person. And I'm like, there's a blizzard. Like, what do you expect me to do? Do a Devil Wears Prada? Like, get on a plane? Like, no. Like, I still can work remotely. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways to do certain things. And I think some are still trying to hold on to this traditional, like, we can't pivot to what's easier I don't know. I believe in a hybrid model, like what we're doing here, but also being in person.
Yeah,
like
exactly. You can't. It's culturally entrenched. It's really hard and it feels like it's almost childish. Like, you must be here so I can watch you and monitor you and see how many times you go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, the best part is, and if this person's listening, which probably not, but yeah, maybe they will. We were able to come up with a compromise, which is what's good. But I think that it's not this person, it's like coming higher up apparently, but that we would, if we can't be there in person, our students have to be in class in person. Okay. And then we can be on Zoom. I'm like, wait, so I'm on Zoom. It's like if I was here, all my students would be in class. And I'm like, that doesn't exactly, you know what it is? I think they're like afraid that the students aren't going to be adults. Like, it's almost like they're not giving the students agency. And it's like, well, if a student wants to do well in college, they need to, you take initiative. It's not high school.
Oh, and you got their money. So, like, who cares if they turn up, really?
I don't know. I mean, well, a part of it actually, I think, is money, is universities that are higher in America are trying to justify their tuition instead of those parents taking their children to state schools.
Yeah, probably.
And it's like, well, maybe lower your tuition and, you'll still be able to, because the higher tuition doesn't necessarily mean that the faculty, get paid higher. It actually is the opposite, which is very odd.
Well,
depending on the universities, but yeah. So basically, though, like, I'm curious how, you being in the sex industry, and you were very open about it. I mean, like, even before I met you, I could, you're open about your experience in writing, but I think that, there's a misconception, or maybe there isn't. Like, do you feel that people stereotype, like, if they've heard that you were in the sex industry? Like, when you were working that banking job, I'm assuming that wasn't what you said to everyone.
Welcome to Severed, a podcast week dropping new episodes every Monday. Severed True Crime and Severed Paranormal episodes deep dive into murder, mysteries, and the otherworldly in a concise format. A 7-minute story to frame the case with thoughtful analysis and our usual banter.
We sometimes find the lighter side of darker cases. We offer 3 spin-off shows, Severed Strange Stories, Severed Haunted You, and Severed Serial Killers, that highlight the unusual to lighthearted topics from the digital dumpsters of true crime, haunted universities, and the minds of madness like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer.
We are your co-hosts. I'm Harry Chambers.
And I'm Drew Hudson. Listen on all major podcast platforms, including Rogue Media Network and Radio Garden State. Follow us on Instagram at severed_podcast.
Are you a fan of classic Hollywood movies?
Are you a fan of queer cinema?
Then do we have the podcast for you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Garcia.
And I'm Luke Del Mar.
And we are your hosts of That Old Gay Classic Cinema, where we take a look at some of the greatest films of all time and analyze them through a queer theoretical lens.
Let's be honest. LGBTQIA+ people have been a part of Hollywood since its inception, and this podcast celebrates those artists and entertainers of yesteryear, while also taking a closer look at the queer-coded characters and stories in classic Hollywood films long before queer representation entered the mainstream.
So follow us down the road of classic cinema as we give you a guide to some of the films that touched our hearts, brains, and even gave us courage to be ourselves.
You can listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
All right, listeners, we're ready for our close-up.
Like, I was in the sex industry.
No, what I said was I worked, and only when I was sort of fairly entrenched and comfortable, I just said I worked in a sex shop, which was true. I worked for a chain called Club X for 2 years. And I did it way longer than I was actually selling myself, because the money was way better. And that's why I was at the time looking for money equals freedom. Yeah. So I was happy about that. But then I began relegating the actual sex work to the past, and to the point that I'd almost forgotten about it myself. And I was distancing the memory because there was so much shame attached to that, and an association. And yeah, it's only really after I read the book, and even then not immediately, I even denied that I actually did any sex work when I first. But I guess as I'm nearing retirement, I don't give a fuck anywhere near as much. And now I'm pretty open about the reality. And I wasn't in it for a long time. I did live with I had a flatmate who was doing it for like a year. And that's kind of one of the questions you talked about earlier, was about this. I was thinking about how it was the rung. It's like a ladder. And I was myself. I would have done street-based work, and the next step up would be agency work. In the States, there's probably another step again, which is sex work in bars. We don't really have that culture in Australia, so it's street work, agency work, kept boy. You find a rich client, and that was most people who were going to stay in the industry. That was their goal. Yeah, and I was to do the first two, and then I was approached by a director to kind of be a kept boy. But then I realized.
Oh my God, that's funny, because do you know Dale Corvino?
No.
He wrote the memoir called Afterlife of a Kept Boy. I had him
really?
Well, his episode is out by now when this comes out, but yeah, I'll have to send it to you, Dallas, because he met this like sugar daddy on the Upper East Side, and that's a whole other keeping an older man company.
Yeah, and and again, I was trying to look at like sex work in the bigger picture for everybody. And my dad married 2 Filipino women. And I mean, he was 66 when he married his 33-year-old last bride. I mean, you can't tell me she was in it for love. But there might have been a certain level of like and companionship, but there was certainly a transactional thing. But was she a prostitute? And I kind of wanted to, if you have to do sex for food, is that prostitution? Or, if you have to do sex for safety, is that prostitution? So I wanted to explore a little bit of that in the book in a way.
Yeah. I mean, was your dad's like libido that high when he was 66?
Well, he's on Viagra because I've found some.
Okay.
So yes and no. Well, there's a tension. Maybe I was without the blue pills, but he's always a horny, up guy.
I was actually thinking recently when I was seeing the musical Death Becomes Her about like, when am I going to need Viagra? And like, I know you have to be like around, like interested. Like it doesn't, like your dick doesn't just swell up with blood.
Pump it up. And you've got to get the feeling first. So I don't know. It's not.
No. I mean, hey, I'm sure eventually I'll be doing it. I mean, it's pretty normalized for guys.
100%, and no shame too. I don't like people shaming for that reason, because it can be just also a party drug, and in a way, and who cares? It's not doing anyone else any harm.
Yeah. Well, that's something like in the sex industry, like, well, porn actors are definitely take Viagra.
You'd have to, imagine.
I mean, yeah, I don't.
Well, there wasn't back then. It wasn't that in the day. But I was a twink in the time, so I wasn't really called upon to top much, so it wasn't a problem.
Yeah, that wasn't your you weren't that didn't have to perform in that way, we'll say. Well, do you feel like, because in the public, I feel like everyone has this like Pretty Woman, like romanticized version. Like, does that actually exist where someone falls in love with like their client?
I don't know. I mean, I don't ever saw it like that. But I imagine it possibly could, but probably, most likely very much not. It's more likely the client would fall in love with the person, and that was why the kept boy thing, or even, kept woman thing would be a thing, and why some straight guys, obsess about a certain prostitute. But I don't think it's healthy, and it's also projecting fantasy, and it's not based on reality. And I think 1 in a million might turn up to be a loved, genuine love thing, but honestly, I don't think it's reality.
Yeah.
And that was quite sanitized. I mean, obviously, that was super sanitized Pretty Woman, but I did love it still because at least it was a humanized, just humanized as a sex
yeah, she's
worker.
not
But
like
also
disrespected.
no, but it's also
well,
highly
she is
sanitized.
when she's shopping, but that's a different thing.
It's just women being bitches.
yeah. But no, I had a friend who was stripping in college, and I thought it was so like how open about it she was. I thought it was amazing, but also I got worried for her just from stories she told me about like, oh yeah, this guy's stalking me and he has a wife, but he loves me. And I'm like, have you ever gone out with him outside the strip club? And she's like, no, that's his fantasy, but I let him think that, so I get money. And I was like, this sounds like it could get dangerous quickly. But
yeah, and that's the danger in sex work, is a bit of that. Mostly for women, I think. For men, the balance is very different. You've got men and men. So a guy can generally defend himself. And most of the guys who worked the wall, for example, in agencies were fit. So they weren't, the threat wasn't. But for women, I think it's very real.
oh yeah.
Because, straight men too. Straight men, gay men, I think we come into sex, maybe not, obviously not when we first come out, but then we're quickly inducted into all walks of gay and demystified. Most of it's demystified, and it's not nearly as much stuff attached to that bad stuff. But for straight people, they live in this very square type of walls, moral walls that are built around them by the community. And if you break them, you can do it. Lots of people do, like swingers and sex clubs and stuff. But in the minority,
which exists, yeah.
But when I went in the sex shop, I mean, gosh, the amount of clients I both served and had because
who were straight, right? Like you had a lot of straight clients.
It was a straight club, a straight sex shop. So they're all straight, and they, spicing up the sex lives, but they also see the darker fantasies, and it's very restricted as a straight person. They don't have the luxury that we do as gay people generally. I think.
I mean, were you like interested when like men were starting to question, like be curious, or was it more like they were just curious? Like, did you ever meet seemingly straight guys who are curious about being with a guy?
All the time, but then so they're so horned up they need to get blown usually, and muck around, do something, touch another guy. But the moment it's done, you're out, and you see the wall come up, and they're no longer, once they've blown their load, they just go back to, and then the shame comes in, and sometimes that's where the homophobia comes through, because they're so ashamed that it swings the other way, and they want to bash a gay, because they would really want to bash the gay out of themselves. But
it's like the Queer as Folk episode. Did you see when?
I saw quite.
Like Justin gives head to like the guy, his like classmate, who like then becomes homophobic.
Jimmy Somerville, Small Town Boy, Bronski Beat video clips all about that. For example, he gets checked out by a guy at the pool, and then the guy and his mates end up bashing him, but clearly the guy's the guy has a penchant for men.
Like Shia LaBeouf, allegedly. Something's going on with him and Mark Wahlberg, because no, it's true though. Like, I mean, there could just be like straight men I've met who they're not, I feel like the majority are pretty secure. Again, secure in quotes, but there's some straight guys who like just don't want to like mess, like even be friends really with gay people because they don't really connect. But I wouldn't say it's homophobic. I would just say it's more like you're either really secure and you want to like be friends, or you are still trying to like please society in some straight fantasy, which sounds boring as hell.
Right.
It's not fun.
No.
I was just talking with my straight guy friend who I exercise with about like, I was like, oh, have you ever met like straight couples who are like, oh, I want to, like, I'm a swinger. And he's like, no, that's like under the surf. Like, no one really openly talks about it. Like, you have to find those communities, right? That's why some go to the like Caribbean resorts or cruise ships.
Really?
So they can just like, hang that pineapple upside down.
Hey. I never saw that, but wow.
Oh, really? That's what they, yeah. Well, I know on gay cruises, which my husband and I would have like the monogamous symbol. I don't know what that would be. A picket fence. No.
I was going
Um,
to padlock on your door.
but like I know when Kathy Griffin did her stand up and she was on a cruise, she's like, they have this symbol, that symbol, like this means, you know, a threesome, but two guys are getting sucked and the other guy's getting fucked. It was like, okay.
That's so particular. I thought we had
Very
hashtags for that.
particular. The otter, you know, is gonna
Yeah.
be getting head. Like, yeah, everything is like a instead of fantasy football, it's like sex positions on a cruise.
Yeah, it's like time's limited. We want to know exactly what you're into, so we don't waste our time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, when you talk about the red light district, like, is this similar to other? I mean, red light district, I think of Amsterdam images, but like, how much of this is a gayborhood? Like, when you were there in the '90s, like, was this a gayborhood in Sydney?
Nearby, so the wall, for example, is
Yeah.
actually technically Darlinghurst, but it's just a short walk from King's Cross, and Darlinghurst Road passes through King's Cross and goes all the way to Oxford Street. So that area was, but also it was, and then obviously the Oxford Street is a famous Mardi Gras strip, and it used to be a very famous gay strip. Now it's a pastiche, a really poor pastiche of its former self.
It's
Sadly, but
touristy.
oh no, not even that. It's just
Oh, it's not
tragic now.
even like Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
No,
Oh.
no. This it's been really neglected, and the gay bars have closed down because of various reasons. The internet mostly. There's still some there, obviously, but it's just not like the heartland it used to be. And it's been migrating. Like the first gay bar that I know of in King's Cross, I would do the history search of it, but it was the Bottoms Up Bar. It was one of the oldest ones, and that was where that's where the gay scene started, was King's Cross. And then it migrated through Sydney up to Darlinghurst and eventually ended up in Long Oxford Street and then extended beyond there. And now it's sort of moving slightly away from Oxford Street down like Crown Street, where there's more gay cafes, but the culture's less based around the bars like it used to be. And it's still a very gay area. Like that is very much a gayborhood. There's also King's Cross was a dangerous kind of gayborhood, but you wouldn't walk holding hands down the street because that's where the sex tourists come, and they're often homophobic because it's a straight area.
Oh, wow.
But you could be gay or look like two guys walking down the street would be okay. But if you held hands, that's one step too far.
Oh.
So it's not that gay. And even Oxford Street, which is what was a gay street, or still technically is a gay street. You could hold hands, but you just probably going to get a beer can thrown at you, or somebody going faggots as they go past. Still, even now.
Wait, even now?
Oh yeah, because it's a microcosm. And outside of that, there's outside of Sydney, like especially the western suburbs, it's fairly still old school homophobic. Wow. It's better than it used to be, but like people just generally don't care these days that much. But there's still still homophobia, still rife, and there's still bashings, that kind of thing. And people would come into Oxford Street to bash a gay. They just have tourist buses. Football clubs, party buses rather. They'd go on a bus and get all maggoted up. You could hear the music would be going, and they'd just cruise up and down Oxford Street going, fucking faggots.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
wait, Dallas. Sorry, my like groceries just got delivered. I'll be like right back. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry.
I'll put some elevator music on.